You're listening to the Fezcast, the Saracens fans podcast, bringing you the independent and unhinged views of the voices in our heads, as well as those of our special guests. To get in touch with us, find the Fezcast on social media and listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube and more. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy this week's show.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, welcome everybody to the Fezcast after a pretty, well, I was going to say for 50 minutes, it looked a pretty good weekend, but then the last 30 went away from us up in Northampton. Joining me tonight, John Farrer. And first, John, I've got to ask you, how's the head? Because I saw your Facebook post of a pint of beer in the immediate aftermath saying there'd be a few more of that sunk, and I think I totally get where you're coming from with that one, mate.
I decided to have a wander around the lovely town of Berkhamsted and had more beers than I intended. I was trying to drown my sorrows after the result of that game, but we'll talk about that in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a bit of a hammering, wasn't it? But what we're going to do is myself and Duncan were there, and Duncan took his little microphones along, and we recorded a bit before the game, a bit at half-time, and then a bit at full-time, which very much spur at the moment. What we'll do is we'll play parts 1 and 2 in, which is our build-up to the game, and then our reaction to the first half. We'll have a chat about the first half, because that was good, John, and then we'll play in part 3 and have a chat about what on earth happened afterwards. But here we go. Here's me and Duncan at the game.
This is the Fezcast.
Hello, everybody. I'm here with Jez. We're standing pre-match watching the players warm up at one end of the Cinch Stadium. I was thinking Franklin Gardens, but I believe that name's out the window. And we have the benefit of knowing, following the defeat by Sale of Bristol last night, that if Bristol get a bonus point win about Quins, the maximum that we need is 9 points out of the next 2 games, because thanks to Barry, the decider comes down then to games 1. And at the moment, if we win today, we've won 1 more game than Bristol. So, Jez, bit of a strange one, a very strong Saints team out, but they've got the game of their careers so far next weekend in the European final against Bordeaux. So mentally, how do you think Saints are going to be?
Well, I think coming in, a lot of the thought from people here is that they're going to go through for 60 minutes and hope that they've got the game won, and then look to swap their big game players out. They want them battle hardened for next week. That's without doubt. That's the way to do it. You've got a big final. You want your players confident. You want your players at speeds before that final. That's what they're going to go for. Saracens, though, the pick's a very strong side, as we have to. In your preamble, you talked about what we need to do. What we need to do is win here. And, you know, as we've always said the whole season, you can't go away to away matches in this league and expect to win. So the onus, the pressure is still on us to put performance in and to win. And I think if we go to 60 minutes and we're in touch, our bench is stronger than theirs, and hopefully that will allow us to get the win that we desperately need.
And that's got to be right, because it's win first and foremost. Because if we don't win, the season's over, and whatever we do next 2 weeks' time against Bath won't matter. Hard to say whether it's going to be easier to get bonus point win here. You're probably right, especially because it's us. The Saints team won't want to lose, but at the same time, they are going to be thinking about next week, aren't they?
Well, they are, and that's why I say 60 minutes, we're bringing players off. And if we're close or in the lead or whatever, the thing for Saints is, even if they are losing in 60 minutes, provided their big players have had that run out, they won't be too fussed about it. So that might well play into our hands. What we've got to do is just say we've got nothing left to lose. You know, go out there, and as we've been saying for the last few weeks, provided we go out and show what we're made of and play some good, attractive rugby, why can't we get 4 tries? And if we get 4 tries, we're going to be there or thereabouts for that win.
Absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see the team up against a very good defence, isn't it? We had a very good run out against definitely not the best defence in the league at Newcastle. It's going to be interesting to see whether we continue to see the progress of Fergus Burke and our overall general attacking play to get those 4 tries.
Well, absolutely. And I think what's important is that we carry on from the performance against Falcons, which was, whilst it was a cricket score, and whilst it was Falcons perhaps weren't the sternest test, the accuracy was excellent. Everything went to hands. Everything they wanted to do, they did. And we've got to continue that in this game. And if we do that, we've got a chance. We've got that puncher's chance of getting the points that we need.
Well, it's the old cliche. Every game is a cup final for us now, from now until whenever our season ends. We'll leave it there, check in at half time and see how the rest of our season is going.
Hi, this is Petrus Duplessis, and you are listening to the Fezcast.
This is the Fezcast.
Right, so half time, Jez. We've got 75% of the tries that we need. We are ahead by 12 points. Just need one more try and keep on having more points than Saints. A really good performance. I mean, in particular, from our vantage points, the second try, one of the best you'll ever see, wasn't it?
Oh, it was fantastic. Coast to coast and back again in the corner for one Martin Gonzalez, who unfortunately has got off injured, but he's had I think all 15 players on the pitch have had a pretty good, impressive first 40.
Yeah, fingers crossed that it's just more than a precaution, but it did look bad. He walked off without hindrance, it seemed, although a bit gingerly, but we really need to try and keep hold of the tandem of him and Theo. Theo's on, so as you said, have not got like for like, but we've got good for good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Theo's going to give you something different, perhaps more of a presence in the line now, which has been going pretty well, both on defence and attack. So, yeah, feeling at this moment in time confident, especially if Saints start trailing players off like they've already done now with like Curtis Langdon coming off.
Got to have fingers crossed that in 10 minutes into the second half, we're going to see more players coming off. Another great occasion to end another really good try, seeing Alex Good going over.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who is this young fullback? He looks like he's got years ahead of him, doesn't he, in the game? Fantastic stuff. But talking about the back three players, Tobias Elliott's had a great game, but Rotimi Shegan has been causing all sorts of problems to Tommy Freeman, who's obviously ahead of him in the pecking order for England and the Lions, but he's really causing a lot of problems.
Both in defence and attack, he looks superb. Again, we're lucky being behind him when he did such a beautiful jink. Didn't lead to anything because someone knocks on, can't remember, but boy, he is looking good.
This is the Fezcast.
Right, well, welcome back. And yeah, that was myself and Duncan. And we seemed pretty chipper there, didn't we, John, at the end of the first half? We were quite enjoying it. I mean, there was lots to enjoy.
There was, Jez. The enthusiasm was there at the outset, and then half time, and the 5 points going to come along as we get into the second half, and then, well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't it, really? I mean, I don't know whether we got sort of like caught up in a bit of the complacency. I mean, the start of the game, my comment was, and everybody's thought so, was that we need to stay with them for 50 minutes, wait for them to empty their bench, put our bench on, and overpower him. And it didn't work that way, because the first half, that's as good rugby in the first half as I've seen us play. There's a little bit of inaccuracy here and there, but in the majority of the times, we went out and they played some really good rugby, with a couple of tries being contenders to try the season, John.
Oh, absolutely, Jez. I mean, it was the thing that I picked up immediately in that first 15 minutes was very similar to you. Let's get over this. They're going to come at us. We went at them, and the intensity from everybody was there. We gave them no space at all. They didn't know what to do when the tries started going in. we couldn't have asked for any better. And I think, as you say, it was some of the best rugby I've seen this season.
Yeah, I really do. I think we were on it. We were physical. Juan Martin Gonzalez in particular leading from the front in the pack. I thought he had an exceptionally good game. Tom Willis, Ben Earl, both at the top of the stats in their positions. From the they're in the Premiership Team of the Week. I mean, Ben Earl's stats were ridiculous.
Yeah.
I thought Marco Riccioni coming back from injury was impressive. Jamie George was impressive. I mean, the Saints just... I looked at a lot of Saints players in that first half and I thought they've got one eye on the final next week. They don't want to get hurt. And you had Curtis Langdon going off early, whatever. I thought, yeah, they're here for the taking. And in the first half, we did, didn't we? I'm going to mention two players on the wing, Rotimi Shegan and Tobias Elliott again. Absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, got a lot of time, got a line for Rotimi in particular. You know, he's been really unfortunate with injuries over the years. But he's not only so fast, he's so strong. And he gives you 110% every single game. And the same for Tobias. He's a young lad and he's developing well. And, I mean... I was a bit lost for words once we came into the second half, I would say. But for the first half, I was jumping up and down, really, and thinking, let's get this over and done with. Let's look forward to Bath next weekend.
Yeah, and there was an awful lot of Saints fans around us who were getting a bit worried. And actually, at half time, and you heard it at the end of part two, we had the guys in the wheelchair area behind us. One guy in particular, he gave us a bit of the rounds of the kitchen sink. It was all good bantery fun, though. But I had a long chat with him, and he was saying that I don't care what happens in this game. I want us to take our players off now and get through it. And it was weird. I tell you what, shall we play in part 3 of mine and Duncan's reaction to the game? Because I think that leads us quite nicely into discussing what happened. And I mean, I think we're going to have to spend more time on what we think happened there, and I think there might be a few criticisms coming back. Let's listen to the spur of the moment reaction, and then perhaps we'll have a bit more of a measured reaction afterwards, John.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, Jez, it all started so well in the second half, another good try, and then we seemed to fall off the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's our season of Microcosm, isn't it? I think there was an element there, well, I don't know what it was, but was it complacency? Or did they feel the job was done? I don't know, but the last 30 minutes, where we were saying at the start of the game, we get the 50 minutes in touch, and then use our bench auxiliary away. We didn't. We took a foot off the gas, and we paid the big cost for doing that. It's words are failing me, which isn't oftenly said for me.
Whereas in the first half, we seemed to have 2 or 3 players straight on them. In the second half, they were playing like Northampton. They were playing lovely passes amongst each other, but also having the time to do it.
Yeah, they did. We definitely stepped off in defence. I just feel there was an element of, well, we've got our 4th try, job's done. And credit to Northampton Saints, you have to give them credit. They brought on players when you thought there was a weakened bench. There's players there who were playing for a European final place next week, and they stood up, every single one of them, stuck their hands in the air and said, I want to be in that team, and that's what won them that game.
And in the end, a sucker punch with a minute and a half to go. I really thought we were going to defend it. We just needed to get possession, but there was one more try in them.
Yeah, there was, and I said it to you, didn't I? I said when we were sat in watching the game that I felt that was happening. I felt it was inevitable. I mean, there's a couple of refereeing decisions. It's not a first class if I don't have a popular referee. I think Luke Pearce bottled one in the first half with the Trevor Davidson high hit, and potentially was there a forward pass in that move. But at the end of the day, Saints shouldn't have been in the position to be able to get the luck of the draw in that moment.
Well, I think we'll leave it there because both of us are feeling very raw at the moment. It's a really bad way to end the season. We nearly made it and we didn't. And we'll probably see what we feel like after a bit of time's passed. So back to the studio.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Are you fed up with the same old takes from the mainstream sports media? Well, it's time to refresh your feed. with Your Other League. I'm Josh, and I'm the host of Your Other League. Join me, Matthew, Andrew, and Ryan as we give you honest sports takes from relatable fans. This is Your Other League. Check us out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Download today.
Right, well, there you go. Time to reflect on a second half. I'm going to start off. First of all, before I talk about our team, the elephant in the room has got to be Luke Pearce. And I didn't mention him in relation to the first half, but I thought Luke Pearce had a pretty shoddy game. Now, 3 years ago, I would have sat here now, John, and said to you that Luke Pearce is the best referee in the world. So nobody to touch him. I thought, excellent. He had the courage of his convictions. He was happy to take control, and he did take control. I think he's got a bit of the Nigel Owens about him. Nigel Owens, my big criticism of him was that he began to believe the press. He began to believe he was the star of the show. And I think with Luke Pearce, there's a certain extent of that. And once he's made a decision, it doesn't matter. He is going to stick with that decision, right or wrong. First half, Trevor Davison should have been red carded, or at the very least yellow carded. Absolutely. I cannot see any mitigation whatsoever. And I'll be honest with you as well, John, and you know this because you've listened to the Fezcast, if that had been one of our players who had done that, got in high, head on head, no arms tackle, I would have been saying, if he didn't get a yellow card or a red card, we got away with one there. Saints got away with one, and if you're the best referee in the world, you should pull that one up, shouldn't you, John?
I think you should, absolutely. I mean, like yourself, I've got a lot. I don't like to be critical of referees. It's a thankless task. You're never going to please everybody all the time. And as you say, I've got a lot of respect for Luke Pearce. He's got character about him. But I thought the game last Saturday, there were a number of occasions where he seemed to be unsure about when he was making decisions, and then some decisions it was almost, even when the TMO gets involved, I've made the decision, that's it almost, especially the drop try. I don't know. I mean, I got the impression that the TMO was saying, I can't agree with you. I can't agree with you here, Luke, because the guy's dropped the ball, and it's obvious he's dropped the ball. And he seems to be intent on saying, on-field decision is a try. It'll have to be really something special almost not to give that try. Well, actually, it's on camera now, and it's on the TV. He's dropped it.
Yeah.
And it was that's that. I've never come across that attitude with him before.
No, and I think with the integral one, the one that's really got everybody's go, although I've said on our WhatsApp group, I'm still more miffed about the red card or yellow card, at least, for Trevor Davison, that wasn't given. But the forward pass at the end, I mean, there are people saying that the pass to Juan Martin Gonzalez was forward. I didn't think it was forward. You could clearly see Elliott's hands going in a backward motion, and it was just the flow of the ball, which is allowed within the laws. But the pass that set up that winning try, I don't think that could be any more blatantly forward. And the TMO was telling him that is a forward pass. And Luke Pearce was saying, no, it wasn't. And I'm sorry, the point of the TMO is to pick up when the referee makes a big mistake that will affect the result. And that was a big mistake that will have affected the result. We'll talk about whether it did really truly affect the result or not in a moment. But in that situation, if the TMO is sat there saying, I'm looking at the video, I'm looking at the replays, I am telling you that is a forward pass, you defer to your TMO. Or otherwise, what's the point of having them?
Well, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Jez. I mean, it was so obvious. And I assumed he was going to call it back. And then we would close out that last 2 seconds or something. But to allow it to go, I was watching with some friends on text, or some friends were playing on text, and said, "Don't worry, John, you're all right. You can go out. No worries." And then when he said, "No, we're going to allow that," And even, as you say, even the TMO trying to be as politically correct as he could be and saying, I think you got this wrong here, Luke. No.
Well,
So he...
the only hope I have for Luke Pearce is that he goes away. And like all good referees, and I mean, if I go back to my playing days, the good referees were the ones who sat down with players after the game, sat down with their peers, with other referees, and asked for advice. And I can only hope that Luke Pearce has sat down with a beer after the game and someone's come up to him and said, that wasn't good, mate. You need to have a look at that. And I just hope he dials in the I'm the boss attitude, which I think he does have a bit at the moment, and goes back to what he was 3 years ago when he was the best referee in the world.
Oh no, absolutely it was, and and that's what I said. I've still got a lot of time for him. I'm not going to judge him overall in this game. I'm still wanting to say he had a bad game, and unfortunately, he had a major impact on the result from our perspective.
It did. Yeah, you're absolutely right there, John. Although, now, this is the interesting thing. The game of rugby, as you know very well know, is very much ifs, buts, maybes. And sometimes you get the luck and sometimes you don't. The problem is, 50 minutes into that game, John, we were 24-7 up. We'd got our fourth try. We'd got the bonus point in the bag. There is no way on earth that we should have lost that game. And regardless of the fact that Northampton got the rub of the green on a couple of occasions, and possibly would have got more of the rub of the green if the TMO hadn't have been as forthright on the Alex Coles try that wasn't, we allowed Northampton Saints back into that game. And I'm just going to read out what Mark McCall said, because I think this is a really important starting point to where we just dissect that second half performance. And he said it was a painful experience and a hugely disappointing ending as we were all over the place in the final 20 minutes. First half, we played with intensity and exactly as we had planned to have the better of full-strength European Cup finalists, but after that, we were really poor. The performance today fully encapsulates our mixed bag season as the gap between our best and worst is far too wide. We didn't deserve to win and just have to suck it up. Well, what's your reaction to that, John, before I come back and pick up a couple of points?
I completely agree with Mark. I mean, when I saw his comment come out, that made me feel a little bit better, actually, because I wasn't the only one who was thinking, that's not good enough. I expect better from the Saracens boys. And I'm sure when they got back in the dressing room, they would have sat down there and said that themselves. I hope they would have sat down there and said themselves. Because we have a right to expect more than that. And I hope I'm not saying anything that they're not looking in the mirror and saying to themselves, what the hell went wrong there?
Well, I think you're right, and I've seen Maro Toji's comments afterwards as well, which very much echoes what Smalley said. I think the important thing to pick up there from that is, number one, I think when Barry posted that, I did put, I says, I'm sure that is the censored version of what actually went on in the change room. Sure. I can imagine that there were some very harsh words and that there will continue to be harsh words because this season, this isn't just this game. It isn't that last 20 minutes. That has been this season in microcosm, hasn't it? That we have played some scintillating good stuff, but then we've played some absolute dross. And in previous years, as Mark says in that there, the gap wasn't so great, but the gap between Northampton Saints last 20 minutes and Newcastle Falcons at home, for instance, has been humongous, really. And that inconsistency has really cost us badly this season. And we're sounding a bit like a broken record because we say it seemingly after every bad performance, which brings me to my second point. And as much as I admire Mark coming out and being honest and saying we didn't deserve to win and just have to suck it up, how many times do we have to suck it up? And, you know, I don't want to be Arsenal TV. We always say we don't want to be Arsenal TV. But at some points, us as fans have got the right to ask how many more times. And the club have to look at themselves and say, why and what are we going to do about it? And if it means that there needs to be some changes or some rejigging in coaching or whatever it may be, that's seems to be this summer is going to be what the guys are going to have to concentrate on, isn't it?
No, absolutely, Jez. I mean, I've been following Saracens for many, many years, like you. And one of our patterns of play is we might have a not so brilliant first half. We really come in a second. And this year, we just, as you say, we seem to lose the thread for periods. We look fantastic. We look fantastic against Northampton in that first half. I wasn't worried or concerned that I was going to go along to see Bath in a fortnight's time and think we can get 4 points here. I'd been quite confident seeing them play in that first half. But what happens? What changes that mindset? Because it must be a change of mindset, or is it a change of? Because they look tired. They looked absolutely buggered when you were running, when they were that last 20 minutes. When they were chasing back. The standard youngsters were running, but a lot of them seem to be dragging their heels. What is it? Is it the way they're setting up for the game? Is it the way that their tactics have been thought through? I think we all know that Faz did a lot of the tactical thinking for the team. Is there somebody? Isn't that going on now? Because we've got our 5 points. We're into the game. We've got 20 minutes to go. You want possession. If they haven't got the ball, they're not going to score. But then we seem to lose the thread, and I don't understand why the guys lost the thread out on that field.
Well, I mean, there's one player who has taken a lot of criticism, I think unfairly, and again, I do think it's unfair to single out Fergus Burke, but he hasn't yet developed that part of his game. Okay. Right. And I think there are an awful lot of players in that team, and we do have to give them a little bit of leeway on this. Give them a little bit of what's the word? So consideration that they're not players who've played 150, 200, 250 games outside of Jamie George, Alex Good, Nick Tompkins. There's a lot of youngsters there, or guys who, Theo McFarlane might be in his face, but he's still an inexperienced rugby player. Juan Martin Gonzalez is still only in his early to mid-20s. So, they're not the same, and you lost an awful lot of players who played together, who knew each other inside out and knew that when the chips were down, this is what we do. And I think it's going to take a season or two to develop that in these players. They need another 30, 40, 50 matches under them to be able to be in that same level. So given that consideration, number one. Number two, you're right, Owen Farrell, contractual mention of him, was a captain who was a tactical captain. Maro Itoje is not a tactical captain. His captaincy is a lot more different to that. It's a lot more thoughtful, I think, but it's an awful lot more about inspiration and, following in him and whatever. It's not about grabbing hold of the game and saying, you can't do it from second row, to be perfectly honest with you. You can stand off, you can, because you're directing the game. Second row, you are a grunt at the end of the day. You are in the engine room, you're doing that hard work. So, yeah, you might be right. We're losing that lost that tactical nous. That's going to take a little while for other players to develop. The player you need to really look at, though, at the moment, that senior player who should be directing it, is Ivan Van Zyl. And I thought, first half, great, fantastic. Lots of quick ball, brilliant. Second half, he just kicks everything away. And I really didn't understand it, that if you've been doing something so good in the first half and the first 10 minutes of the second half, why do you then? It's like, okay, I mean, watch Crystal Palace against Manchester City, got an early goal against Manchester City in the FA Cup final and sat on it and worked bloody hard and did well. It seems to me that's what we try to do. Get a lead and then sit on it. And sometimes it'll work. But I've always been it's my big mantra in rugby, the best form of defence is to attack. And I think we needed to continue doing what we were doing, and we would have scored more tries and the game would have been safe.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Jez. I mean, I was chatting to a friend when I was out on Saturday night drowning my sorrows in Berkhamsted, and he said exactly the same. he said, what was said in the dressing room at half time? What did they give them at half time? Because they came out and they looked a different side in the way they played. And the longer the game went on, the less like the first half side they looked. And we imploded. I'm not quite sure we imploded. We didn't do something like our friends from the Southwest did a couple of weeks ago. But the question has to be asked. If you set up the team for the game, you know what you want to achieve from this game. Okay, what's happening in the first half? We're attacking them. They're going to have to take some of these players off because they don't want to lose everybody for next weekend. We continue to do what we do. We come out with the same attitude in the second half as the first half. And I don't know why they didn't. And I'm sure everybody's thinking the same.
The one thing I will say in defence, I suppose, of us, or more so in praise of Saints, is that first half I thought there were a number of players playing for Saints who knew that they were going to be playing in the European Cup final and played with one eye on that European Cup final, on the Challenge Cup final. Okay, and didn't perhaps go 100%. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. That's for them to tell you, and that's for the Saints fans to work out. But I definitely got the impression from the people around us, Saints fans around us who we were chatting to, that potentially they thought that there were players there who had one eye on that big game next week. The players that came on, however, where we were expecting, and perhaps our team was expecting them to be less of a threat because they are lesser players. You know, as a guy behind me said, go take Alex Mitchell off and bring our fourth choice scrum half on. Or we're going to take Finn Smith off and we're going to have Fraser Dingwall, the centre, playing at standoff, or Rory Hutchinson, the centre, playing at standoff. You know, it was going to be a lesser team. But what those lads did when they came on was they went, do you know what? There's a Challenge Cup final next week and I want to be in that squad. If I'm not going to be number 1 to 15, I'm going to make sure I'm either number 16 or 23, depending on what position I play. I'm going to turn around to Phil Dowson and stick my hand in the air and say, you need to pick me next week, at least on the bench. And they played with that intensity and that ability and that desire. And that really did, one, shock us, I think, and frightened us and got on top of us, because I don't know whether there was a little bit of complacency or whatever going through our team, that we've done the job. We got the job done at half time, and then suddenly these guys came on, turned the tide, and we just couldn't drag back the momentum.
No, Jez, I think you're spot on. I think the final the play that led to that contentious try at the end. You only have to look at the drive from their players. They wanted that ball. They wanted a push towards that line, and they did. They threw everything at it, and we were missing tackles. And I think you're right. They wanted it more. I mean, Tarek Hafar, he's off to Leicester, isn't he?
Yes.
But he wanted to show, I'm not staying here, but I'm a really good player, and he showed he had a desire to get to that line. And I don't know. I'm sure we'll get over it, and in 2 or 3 years' time, we'll be saying, "Do you remember?" But at the moment, it's quite raw.
Well, I mean, I think the thing is, and perhaps what we'll discuss more over the next couple of weeks as the season begins to end and wind down. And let's be honest about it, we'll talk more next week because there's no rugby for us, actual rugby for us to talk about. We'll discuss and preview Bath at home and the machinations of how we can still qualify or whatever on next week's show. I just hope that this is a catalyst now, that people at the club, that Mark McCall, that Joe Shaw, the coaches will all sit down, the senior players, the management, whoever, and say, we can't go here again. This is, we've seen some dark days at Saracens. This is one of those dark days. Does it change the way we support the team? No, it doesn't.
Not at all.
It just means that we want to see a reaction, and we've been asking for reactions a lot this season, haven't we? Let's hope we get it.
We have. Let's hope we get it, Jez, and fingers crossed and everything. And I hope we will, and I'm sure we will.
Indeed. Indeed, we will be positive. Well, let's put that on the back burner until next week. We'll have a quick mention from one of the sponsors or one of the jingles, and we'll talk about some other business that's come up. Unbelievably, Saracens have announced things on the day that we record, as opposed to the sort of like 20 minutes after we go live on Wednesday morning. So we've got a couple of things to talk about after this quick break.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
You are listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracen Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the Stonex.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, welcome back to the last part, and Parish notices other business from both the women and the men's side. So we talk the women first, John, because a great player for the women's team, Fee McIntosh, has announced she's off at the end of this season, crossing out of London into Surrey and playing for the Surrey team, Quins.
I know. Well, everybody can make personal choices, can't they? I went to Quins once. Yeah. No, she's been a good servant to us. So
she has, and I think possibly that I think after the season that Alex Osterbury will be looking at players and we'll be looking at strengthening areas and maybe letting players who've been really good player, and Fee McIntosh has been a fabulous player, but perhaps hasn't had as many chances over the last season that she did 2 or 3 seasons ago when she was integral to the success that Saracens had, and saying, look, we want you to play rugby. You're probably going to be better off moving somewhere else to get those chances that you feel you deserve, and which she rightly does deserve, I think.
I think she does. I mean, she is a very good player, and she's not the sort of player you want to have sitting on the bench or otherwise. So I think I think she'll fit in well and should be a real bonus to Quins.
Yeah, I think so, and I think also as well this sort of like spreading of talent out around the women's game, where there does seem to be an awful lot more women moving between clubs or going to newer clubs like Ealing have brought in players, and they've signed Meg Jones from Gloucester, for instance. This spreading of talent has definitely seemed to it strengthens the league an awful lot, doesn't it?
I think it does, and I think the more kind of exposure they get, and the more balanced that the teams are. You don't want teams to be whipping people, or whipping boys, whipping girls, whatever you want to call them. You want to have good games in the women's league, and if you spread that talent out, that's what's going to happen, and that will make other young girls want to come forward and say, "Oh, I went and saw that game; it was great." So hopefully, it will spread the word, and more young girls want to come forward and play.
Indeed. Now, moving on to the men's side, 2 new props have signed over the weekend, and today we're recording on Monday. And I can see now why everybody else has decided they don't want to be part of this show this week, because the names are a bit of a mouthful, really. I mean, Team Pacific Islanders. I'm going to give it a go, and I apologise to both these lads. And given the size of them, I hope they don't take offence at my pronunciations. But TT Tuamagi, Samoan, 31, 21 stone. 6'2", has come to us, or is coming to us from Montauban via Wellington, Connaught, Breve. He's been around a bit. Couple of cats of Samoa. He's a big lad, height and weight. Likewise, a big lad, not necessarily in height, 5'1" apparently, but he's also 5'1" wide. Coming from Coventry is Billy Casey Naru. Bit of a sevens exponent, which is a weird thing for a prop, that has to be said. But what an explosive player. what both players do is they play both sides of the scrum. And I know there's been a few people saying, oh, no, not another, both sides of the scrum exponents. They'll get mullered when they come up against, a specialist. But to be fair to them, they play 75% of their rugby on their preferred side, but can fit in either side of the scrum, which with salary caps and squad sizes and everything like that is a valuable thing to be able to have. And, well, good luck to the guys and welcome to the club, I think is the first thing to say. But, I mean, are you infused by these two signings, John?
I am. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce those names again. I think you did very well on that one, Jez, and I'm sure the lads will appreciate it and whisper in your ear at one point. But no, I am. I mean, we've lost some guys out of the pack the last couple of years, and I think we are struggling a little bit there. And the idea of bringing somebody in who can play both sides, it gives us a bit of flexibility.
It does indeed, and I think looking at them, they're both exciting players. Joining a bit of a Pacific Islands trio there now, joining Theo McFarland. Obviously, TT will know Theo from his time with Samoa. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing what these two guys can do. And obviously, we always say Nick Kennedy, he's one of the best talent spotters around, and he's obviously seen something in both these players that is going to add something to our squad. And good luck to them. We look forward to welcoming them.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, the other news, obviously, is that Brandon Jackson has signed a new one-year deal with the club, which is quite an interesting one. And we discussed this on the weekend with a few people about Brandon, that, in his position, there's an awful lot of people ahead of him and an awful lot of people who seem to have jumped ahead of him, in particular, you would say, Tobias Elliott and Angus Hall. So him getting a year deal is kind of quite interesting, I think. I mean, is this his last opportunity to make it in a team? Clearly, the management rates him and wants him part of it. But, I mean, is he going to go out on loan for a year, do you think? Because obviously with the championship changing the way that they're running, that perhaps you won't get so many dual registrations like we had with Hampton. And don't forget, Hampton have a new coach in Dave Ward. Will he still want to be taking Saracens players the way that they have done in previous seasons? Is Brandon going to come in, go out on loan for a year and then come back and learn his rugby elsewhere? Or, is it his last chance to really strike a claim for a starting position, do you think?
I think it's difficult, Jez. I mean, Brandon's a very good young player, and when he gets his opportunities, he tends to take them quite well. But you can only have so many players in a side, can't you? And if he does he want to be part of Saracen's setup and play at Hampton majority of his time? Well, maybe with the championship. Being, God, I've heard so there's going to be so much fun off of the back of that. Maybe that they'll come. Those clubs are going to come tapping on our door and saying, "Oh, we like your young players."
Yeah, I mean, you could be right. I mean, it's a real interesting thing to see, and it'll be interesting to see over the next few weeks what other players perhaps move on, what players come in, who moves where or anything. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it goes, won't it, John?
Yes, it will. Yeah, I'll be very interested. I know we're not going to discuss that this week, but the restructuring of the championship.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. John, I think we're having a few technical difficulties here at my end. I will end the show there and just say, next week we'll be back to preview Bath at the StoneX, our final game of the season. We'll work out what we need to do to qualify, whether we can qualify, and send a few love messages to Quins in the hope that they do us a favour, obviously. But in the meantime, I say thank you, John, for your time, and thank you, Duncan, for your time on Saturday at Northampton. And we'll sign off this week's Fezcast and say all the best and speak to you next week.
This is the Fezcast.